Hey guys, my name is Sam Yu. I'm the chef owner of Golden Diner here in New York City. We're here today to make what I think is the best version of pancakes. Golden Diner is an Asian American diner located in Chinatown, Manhattan. When we first opened, we were nominated for Best New Restaurant in the country by the James Beard Awards. Also Food and Wine Best New Restaurant. The wait can balloon up to 3.5 hours. Every table pretty much gets a pancake. First thing we're gonna do is make the batter. To start, we're gonna get our wet together and bloom out the yeast. We're gonna take 60 grams of water, buttermilk, primarily for flavor, acidity to help with the balance of all these heavy flavors, and also because it's classic. The yeast helps form the air pockets in the pancake, adds like sour acidity, and it acts as a leavening agent. We'll just make it feel lighter and fluffier. Mix this first part of flour, and this is sort of like a poolish when you're making bread, and so we're gonna let this sit and ferment first. I don't have to go too crazy to try to get all these lumps out. Sort of looks like cottage cheese, but this is where I would stop because I don't want to overwork it because then you're going to have more of a gummy texture. You do want to cover this up so there's no skin that forms on top of the batter. This is one way to incorporate more flavor, like the yeast, the flour, the water start to develop that sort of like sour bread flavor notes. Here, I'm just gonna put it in a warm place, not too hot because I don't want to kill the yeast. A warm environment helps the yeast activate more. And let this chill for about an hour so it proofs. Start with the dry AP flour. Salt, and it's important to add the salt here because salt can potentially kill yeast. Sugar. We want the pancake to be sweet, obviously, but for my palate, and I think most people's palates, like you don't want anything to be too cloyingly sweet. For these extreme light powders, we weigh them out with a micro scale, which is just more accurate. So we're gonna get 5 grams of baking soda here. Just acts as a leavening agent, also to help with the fluffiness of the pancake. Gonna mix everything together, make it as homogeneous as possible. Now we'll do our wet mix, 2 eggs, vegetable oil because it helps with the even browning. So all these ingredients you'll see when you're making a chocolate cake or a birthday cake. Pancakes are essentially cakes. We really wanted to emulate like the fluffiness, but also have it just be aesthetically in pancake form. The way we cook it is gonna be what makes it a pancake. Here you can see bubbles starting to form. I could see the yeast actively working. This looks great. It also feels a little bit warm to the touch on the bottom, which is another good sign. I'm gonna mix all this together now. So I'm gonna mix the wet first. I wanna work the flour the least. I don't wanna overwork it because you don't want it to be gummy. You don't see any yellow streaks in there. I'm gonna add the flour. When you are mixing it, it's like sort of growing and moving and you see the bubbles popping. It's a live thing. The levity of the bubbles will translate in terms of the lightness of the pancake. Again, just gently incorporating, lumps are okay. When you're getting all like the excess stuff off your whisk, just make sure you don't have any dry bits of flour because that will come out in your final pancake. The aroma that comes off of this is not what you'll get in a typical pancake batter due to the yeast. You're gonna get like a slight sour note that when you cut a fresh piece of sourdough, it's not gonna come off as off-putting. This is good to go. It'll probably stay for up to 2 days, but I'm gonna put it aside for now and just jump into some toppings. Our maple honey syrup. I think this is one of the best parts of the dish. I'm actually gonna use this pot just to measure the butter. So we're gonna get 1/2 pound over here. This butter, we're just gonna melt it very gently. I don't want it to brown or get any color on it. Just want it to liquefy. You could also throw it in the microwave. And then we'll get to the rest of the ingredients. Honey, flavor of honey. I like to think that this sort of tastes like a Werther's original kind of sauce, which sort of just happened. Soy, just to add a little bit of salty notes and also bring a little bit of those base notes that soy brings to the party. It has a darker, deeper flavor and almost can act like a molasses when you add these two. Maple syrup. Salt in here is really important because it's gonna help balance out the sweet. I'm gonna mix this together. I want it to be just more homogenized, just one color. We also have some xanthan gum, which you don't really need, but something that we use to help stabilize the sauce so it doesn't break where the fat and the water separate. This is more of a restaurant thing, just to help things be more consistent. We have fully liquefied butter. There's no water that's been cooked out of it, truly just liquefied. And then I'm gonna add our honey soy mixture that we've made straight into the pot. Add a touch of water. And you see it starting to come together a bit. It's turning more into one color. And now you sort of have like one nice sauce. Finally, we're gonna add the xanthan gum. This stage is really important that you're whisking. If you don't, you can get clumps of xanthan, which is really not nice. But yeah, when I eat this with a pancake, you get the sour pancake, this slightly sweet, slightly salty sauce. It just acts as like a really nice, bathing agent for our pancakes. Our honey maple butter here is one of the few toppings that we put on the dish. It's the fat of the dish that makes it so luxurious and delicious. This is really important, and how we make it is important. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. It's a ½ pound of butter. I'm gonna do this by hand, but you could do this in a KitchenAid, and that helps make everything so light and fluffy. This is tempered butter at room temperature. It's really malleable, easy to work with. That will help get the air into the butter. It's sort of like whipping cream. One thing that you'll be able to notice is that the butter itself is actually getting lighter in color. So this, you can see, has more air whipped into it than that, which is a little bit more yellow. The flavorings in here are very similar to our syrup. And the butter flavor is also important, just as butter by itself versus in a wet sauce. We have one more thing to get ready for our pancakes. So we're making a berry compote right now with blueberries and strawberries. We try to keep the strawberries and the blueberries the same size so they cook evenly. So essentially we're making blueberry-sized strawberries. I'm gonna add sugar and cornstarch to help thicken so it has a nice consistency versus it being just too wet. And then sugar. You just need a little bit of sugar just to bring it up a bit. This here is macerating the berries, where the sugar is gonna start breaking down the cells, so it brings out the oils. It's almost like marinating a meat in a way. Once you see it start getting wet and glazy and not so white and powdery, that's when you know it's sort of ready. So we're gonna let this sit, let it chill, do its thing, and then we're gonna go cook it down. I don't want to cook this for too long. I'm just trying to cook it until the cornstarch cooks out and thickens. We still want to maintain a lot of the freshness from the fruit. To help prevent that, I'm also going to shock the sauce over an ice bath, which will be here. When you cook this, it's immediately going to sear and release more liquid, but it's also going to tighten due to the cornstarch. So you could hear that like violent, and you see this like very explosive sort of thing happening. You see the sugars caramelizing, and this is gonna be done in like a minute or two. Everything is sort of starting to turn very saucy, and now it's limp. This is where I wanna be. Anytime you're cooking berries, you want to make sure you're not mashing them. That's why we cut them so perfectly and try to make everything in one nice homogeneous shape. Now we got all our components ready, we're gonna start cooking some pancakes. This is exactly how we make our pancakes at the diner. When you pour pancakes over a griddle, they don't have any edges to enclose the pancakes, so they'll just spread out as far as gravity will let them. Whereas if you cook them in a pan, they obviously don't have a place to go, which will allow for more height and body and also fluffiness. These pans have been sitting on the plancha for a good 5 minutes. We cook the pancakes over a griddle because there's even heat distribution, which is important when you want a beautiful, evenly colored pancake. The sound is also key. When you're cooking, you always want to be using all your senses, not only just your eyes, but your ears, your nose, smelling, because that's how you know it's cooking. And you know it's not just going into a cold pan, which is important because you want it to be hot so the pancake rises as quickly as possible. You can sort of see the bubbles working, the edges right here. That's like a nice, beautiful brown color. And so I'm gonna actually put it to a cooler side because I don't want any more color than that. Keep that around 30 seconds or so, and then we're gonna throw them up in the Sally. So this is another part of why I think our pancakes are great. We actually never touch the other side of the pancake. It never sees any direct heat, so that helps with the fluffy texture. So this is a salamander. It's basically radiant heat that comes from up top when you make gratins or mac and cheese. Anything where you want like that color on top, that's what this does First thing that I check for doneness is if you shake it a bit, you see how there's like that little part that's like jiggling in a way that seems raw and probably wet batter. That's how I know that it's not ready. But eventually I'll just take a little peek and just make sure that the inside is fully done. Now that I see some color in the pancakes, I could gently cut into it to see if it's done. I can see that there's no raw batter. So that pretty much is good for me. I'm just gonna flip it. That to me is a beautifully golden, crisp pancake that I would cook for anyone that I love. This is ideally what you want to go for. I promise you, just because of all the balancing that we've done, this is not going to taste burnt or bitter by the end. Every order is 2. And a berry compote on there. Now I'm just canneling our maple honey butter. So it has a nice shape. And then finish with our syrup. And it's important that you add a little more syrup than one might think is enough, just because you want both cakes to be drenched and wet in syrup. And the most important part, I think, that just brightens everything up is the lemon zest at the end. We always thought honey, maple, butter, lemon all make sense together, and we're not shy about it. So that's it. This is our honey butter pancakes at Golden Diner. It's fluffy, it's got a lot of different color, golden brown pancake, bright red strawberries, deep dark purple blueberries. All those color contrasts, I think, make the dish just stand out and very aesthetically pleasing. Let's get into it. Awesome. First thing that hits is that lemony, sort of floral zest, which is just lovely. And then I get the texture of the berries, and then finally I get like the softness of the pancakes, which is really just nice. A restaurant style pancake is achievable, especially a Golden Diner style pancake. And I like to think that, you know, we've achieved one of the best in the world. Yes, absolutely. You should use pre-mixed boxed pancake batters. Food scientists have recipe tested those things for decades, and there's a reason why they're so prominent in our culture. And I use them all the time when I'm cooking for my nieces and nephews. I like to zhuzh them up a bit. When they say just add water, I add milk. When they say, I don't know, canola, I'll use sour cream as a fat, or buttermilk, or something else.